Okay, so our last performer is what I would describe my least favorite. Just kidding. Naeh Klages-Mundt.
So, I know that some of you maybe wanted me to tell some jokes, so that's probably what I'm going to do. I really have three goals for this set right now. Firstly, I want to get you guys to laugh, and in doing so, I don't want to get punched in the face. And thirdly, I don't want any protests started in front of sales because of this. So this is a sentimental performance for me. You see, I'm a senior this year, so this is my last year at Queens. And I feel like the fellow Queens have just become like a family to me, you know? I'm just really engraved into who I am. And like Little Norse, it's just like a second home. I actually auditioned for Queens last year, and I was like, hey, I think I'm funny, and then they were just like, nah. But anyway, now that I am a queen, I feel like I can finally tell this next joke. You see, this is a joke I've been waiting to tell for like 8 years now, and now that I'm finally in a stand-up group, I can finally just tell it. So here it is. So I was on MySpace the other day, and I noticed that like they took off their top 8 friends feature, which is like, what is up with that? But anyway, they just eliminated it, and it's just really annoying because I don't know how to tell my friends like whether they're in my top 8. But I found a way around this. I just call all of them up every other week or so and just let them know, whether or not I think they made the cut. It definitely can make for some awkward conversations. So this one time when I was calling up my friend Jacob, I was like, hey Jacob, I got some really exciting news for you. I got into the Queens of Comedy at Carleton. Oh, also you didn't quite make the top 8 this week, but better luck next week. Also there was the time when I was calling up my friend Vivian, and she was like, she saw that I was calling and was like, Naeh, I never ever see you. And you just call me every other week to just let me know that it didn't make the cut. I know that. Or there was a time when I was calling my friend Claire. I was like, oh Claire, you were so close this week. Like if MySpace had like a top 13 friends feature, like you would have made it without a doubt. Without a doubt. So close this week. Better luck next week. Speaking of weeks. So a few weeks ago, I did a very monumental thing. You see, there's this girl who I've had a pretty intense crush on for about 14 months now, actually. And I've had crushes on girls for like, I don't know, like a few months at a time before, but never for this long, for more than a year. So anyway, so I've really wanted to like ask her out for a while now, and so I did. And there are 3 possible answers that you can get: yes, no, and maybe. Actually, she said yes, which was great because I couldn't be happier. But and just as we were about to go on our first date, the worst thing happened. A huge meteorite came falling from the sky and destroyed El Triunfo. And then the second worst thing happened. That's that I woke up from my dream. But I knew that was the day that I would, October 13th, that was the day I'd ask her out in real life. So I went up to her that day and I was like, hey, I really like you. We should go on a date sometime. And she was all like, no. To be fair, that's not entirely true. I mean, she definitely did say no doubt about that. But I wasn't all like, hey, we should go on a date sometime. It was more of a, hey, maybe we should go on a date sometime? Like, I'm pretty sure she thought I was doing an impersonation of like a T-Rex that maybe had fleas. Anyway, she said no, which was great actually, because had she said yes and she'd like, I don't know, become my girlfriend or something, she would never have let me use this joke in my set. I'm currently on like a 22-year long dry spell of sorts. In that I've never successfully asked a girl to a date. Not in middle school, not in high school, and so far not yet in college. So I just thought I'd just talk a little bit about the responses I've gotten over the years. So like this one time, winter term sophomore year, I asked a girl out, and she was like, Naeh, you're such a great guy, but I'm also interested in women right now. And I was like, oh really? Me too, we have so much in common. So that didn't work out. One time, and then beyond that though, the responses just get weirder and weirder. So like this one time in high school, I even accidentally asked a girl out. And she was just like, Naeh, you're such a great guy. But, and that didn't work out. I've had girls turn me down preemptively. And do you know what that means? It means that she turned me down before I had even considered the possibility of asking her out. So I met a girl on the first day of classes once, and we were just talking about our spring breaks. And then she was like, you know, I don't know you very well, Naeh, but you seem like a really nice guy. We should be friends. Also, nothing more than that. I've even had a girl once turn me down retroactively. And let's just take a step back. Okay? Let's just take a step back and discuss what that means. So I asked her out spring term freshman year, and she said yes. She said yes. But then she came back to me a few days later and was like, Naeh, you're such a great guy. But about what we spoke about the other day, yeah, that never happened. I don't know. I can get kind of emotional about when I get attached to someone like that. I don't like to reveal those emotions sometimes. But I found a way around this. So whenever I'm about to ask a girl I really like out on a date, I'm always sure to keep on hand an onion and a chopping board, so that way, when she says no, she'll just think that that's why I'm crying. But like actually though, I told myself like, hey, you should go on a date sometime, and it works both ways. Because if she says yes, I'll just be like, really? It works both ways. I don't know. Sometimes I like to search for clues, you know, whether or not she likes me. I like to search for little subtle clues, like whether she likes me back. But I'm not very good at searching for clues. Not very good at it at all. So like this one time earlier this term, we made really gazing eye contact from across the lecture hall during class. But she wasn't looking. Then later, we were making out, and I thought, you know, maybe she likes me. And then she like blinked a little bit, and I was like, no, wait, she doesn't. I tried to get her Friday flowers, but I noticed that her mailbox already had Friday flowers in it, so I just gave her a check for $3 instead. I don't know. I think I'm pretty good at asking girls out. Like I've got to say I'm a pro at it. My record would say otherwise, but I did everything. Like I know what girls want. Okay. When I was about to ask, like I had, you know, I brought my note card, you know, so I wouldn't forget what to say. I explained the scheduling doodle that I had sent her earlier. To try to find out what time she'd be free the following weekend. I had my onion on hand, and I just read out the proof that I had made. Actually, I have the last sentence of it with me. It's clearly then, it follows that you should go on a date with me. I know what girls want. But anyway, it basically just ended, she said no, and she just apologized profusely. But when I think about it, now, it's almost as if we were, for those 10 minutes, it was like we were in a relationship. Because, I've never been in one, but I just imagine that that's what all relationships are like. Like, you just the buildup of excitement, the anxiety, and then it just ending with someone apologizing profusely. But anyway, so it's just, Naeh, you're such a great guy, and I've heard that phrase so often that, I've just naturally started to introduce myself like that. So like during job interviews, they'll ask me to explain a little bit about myself, and I'll just be like, you know, I think I'm a great guy, but I don't know, there's something about me, I don't know what it is, you shouldn't hire me. Speaking of interviews, sometimes I wonder how sports announcers get their jobs. Like, I think it's pretty obvious, for like football and baseball and soccer. Their announcers, just how well they can flail their arms and just announce like David Ortiz just had a grand slam to left field, or like goal, or Tom Brady just threw a touchdown pass. Yay! Something like that. But I can't help but wonder about the other more, more subtle sports. The sports where you need to whisper, like golf and tennis. How do they conduct those interviews? I think it goes something like this. How good are you at keeping secrets? Because for those sports, it's like you're keeping a secret, a subtle secret between the viewer and the announcer. So imagine it would go something like this. I don't know who to go first. Bubba Watson. Bubba Watson just hit a double eagle. Also, Tiger Woods is cheating on his wife. And I don't know, I just imagine that's what it would be like. And but it would never work the other way around, Like you could never get a golf announcer to announce a football game. It would be something like this. Tom Brady just threw the touchdown pass to Chad Ochocinco. But shh, you didn't hear that from me. That's also a sentence you're never going to hear for a variety of reasons. Speaking of sentences, the next joke has a lot of them. Who here has ever drank a beer? Who here has ever drank a beer since the beginning of the show? All right. So I drank a beer, and what beer can do when you're not trying to be classy is it can make you drunk. And I think that drunkenness is a really interesting state of being because it affects our behavior, but it only affects our behavior at just at the organismal level. But I can't help but wonder what if drunkenness affected our behavior at like the cellular level, like the cell's behavior, or like an organ's behavior. So it would go something like this. Just the pancreas would get all cocky and be like, whoa, bro, heart, bro. Dude, I can totally pump blood. Just let me do it, bro. Or something more like the gallbladder would just wake up next to the esophagus. Or like a drunk mitochondria would come along and just find that its wallet is completely empty of ATP in the morning. For those of you who don't know, ATP is a multifunctional nucleotide, primarily known in biochemistry as the molecular currency of intercellular energy transfer. So the moral of the story is take a biology class. Moving on to the second page now. It's about to get real. That's not it. I don't have a transition for this next one, so I'm just going to turn around. And when I'm done with the 360, can you just say that it was smooth? Thank you. Last weekend, I was in my room playing Monopoly by myself. Don't look at me like that. All of my roommates have girlfriends. I need to occupy my time somehow. Then a bird just crashed into my window and subsequently fell to the ground. And I was just in awe. Like, that's beautiful. Evolution in action. Actually, I'm in an evolution class this term, and I think it's just really interesting that traits in order for like a very advanced trait to evolve, it's just so incredibly rare that for every, for instance, for every bird throughout the course of evolutionary history that evolved wings, there were like 1 trillion that thought they had wings but didn't. So they just tried to fly from that tree and just subsequently just fell and died because their wings weren't sufficiently complex and they just died virgins. And then similarly for like fish, that they thought that they had fins but not Not quite yet. Or like dolphins, rather. They thought they could swim, and they just couldn't, and they just drowned. Or like giraffes. Their necks weren't quite long enough yet to eat, and then they just died. All right, so speaking of non sequiturs, I think that there are two types of jokes. Funny jokes and not funny jokes, and that last sentence was definitely in the latter. Here's my impression of Stevie P. I think he's pretty chill. So my roommates didn't get me a screw date for yesterday. A little shout out to Zach and Nick, and Gustav's great, by the way. Gustav is great. Anyway, they didn't get me a screw date, so I figured that I would just try to find someone like on First Live, who looked like maybe they could be free. So I went down to First Live, and I found just the most desperate soul I could find, and I just went up to them and I was like, I don't have a screw date. My roommates didn't set me up. Can you set me up with your roommate? I have several older siblings, 5 of them actually, and my oldest brother and my sister, they're both married right now, not to each other, but my oldest brother actually has a kid of his own right now, and just as of last year, so which makes me an uncle, and I just can't wait for the day, maybe in like a couple years or so, when I take my nephew Isaac to Toys R Us. I'm gonna take him to Toys R Us, just lead him inside the front doors, and then just be like, just kidding. And walk back to the car. So, can everyone who's a pre-med, can you raise your hand? I didn't think there'd be that many pre-meds here, having fun. So I was actually almost a pre-med back in the day, back in freshman year. But I realized that it's kind of like Fight Club in a way. Because there's this fierce competition, this raw primal instinct to achieve the highest possible grades. They have these mysterious MCAT meetings in Basement Olin at night. But by day they recognize each other's camaraderie by these subtle little nods in acknowledgement. But I think the one difference between the two is that if you're a pre-med, as opposed to being in Fight Club, you always talk about being a pre-med.